Okay, so you really want to know, huh? Fine. I'm gonna start by telling you this. And this is important, so listen up. Your entire life, this one and many others, you've been a god who uses its absolute power to make yourself powerless. Entire cultures, especially this one, have all been afraid of their weaknesses, supposedly. When in reality, they've all been afraid of their power. This goes beyond the matrix of reality. This is something much deeper than that. This is eternal. This is fully realizing your consciousness. This is infinite. This is evolution. This is our divine right.
All right. That's Oscar Obi-Wan on the ones and twos right there. And I have an awesome show today for everybody. Super excited about it. I have my friend Mike Nimetz, who I met through Autonomy. He has a lot of things going on. We're going to unpack all that before we get started. I just want to thank my friends at Content Safe for distributing this all over the internet, so I don't have to re-upload it or any of that jazz. They're amazing. I highly recommend them if you are in the content game. Other than that, my current offer, check it out. I'm hosting a book club this January, and I'm really excited about it. So if you want more details, that will be in the description. And this will be coming out, being published Christmas Eve, I believe. Is the day that we are on. So I forgot to tell you that, Mike, before on the pre-interview, but here we go. Merry Christmas, everybody. Hope everybody is doing well and enjoying some relaxing time with loved ones this holiday season. So Mike is awesome. He actually came and guest hosted and provided a module for my coaching program. He has his own coaching program. It's called Ethical Emergence. But besides that, he has a very long I would say resume, a lot of skills. Project manager, was in the armed forces, and he's also one of the hosts and organizers of Anarchapulco and Agorapulco. He's working on a new event called RESPIRAR ACAPULCO. If you don't know, that means breathe in Espanol. And he has his own show as well called LEO. It's not law enforcement organizations, it's leadership, ethics, and organization. And Mike and I have a lot in common. I'm really excited. Thank you so much for taking the time. This is long overdue to come and chat. We're just going to explore some stuff. And Mike, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, it's absolutely my pleasure, and I'm as excited to see you as you are to see me, apparently, because I love everything that you do, Owen, and appreciate all the hard work and effort that you make to connect with people, because it is, this is probably one of the most important things that we could be doing, is kind of raising people's awareness of what is possible out there. And you're doing a hell of a job, because I get to, in participating with your course, I got to see a little bit about how you see the world, and how you help people, and it's some amazing stuff. I mean, just kind of being an outsider looking in at what you're delivering is, was really taught me a great deal, and certainly some of the stuff that I learned from you, I'm incorporating into what I do as well.
I love that we've been able to share some really cool things. When you came and talked, you have a model that's similar, but you have some really interesting perspectives that I just loved. I love that, like your bird and fish analogy. Some people might get that, some people might not, but anyway, it's been really cool sharing different ideas, from the model of consciousness and how we interpret things. And we both have a big passion for community building, and I do think that is our charge as a group, however we want to identify ourselves as: open-minded people who believe in voluntary principles. I don't like to put people in a box. Sometimes we love putting ourselves in a box. I did it for years, but just as from an open-minded perspective, community building and connecting and focusing on what we do have in common. I know that you and I both share that passion, and I would love to hear just a little bit about how that's taken shape for you. Cause I know how challenging it is to try to put an event together and put all these pieces together, but even though you've been challenged and had, different things kind of come at you, you still had Anarchapulco going on over the past few. It was something that I've heard about and always kind of fantasized about how cool that event must be. But just if you don't mind talking a little bit about the development of that stuff.
Well, Anarchapulco is one that started out in 2015. Jeff Berwick kind of had this idea. We'd actually talked to some of the people that are, they've been to all of them or been to most of them. There's some other things that have actually came up before that kind of led to Anarchapulco in 2015. But for me, I had always been looking for, my community, my people. And up until I went to Anarchapulco and got here to Acapulco, I felt like, I'm just this black sheep that's never going to have like more than 2 or 3 people that I can talk to because, I'm just out here alone, just, trying to apparently crazy,
Right.
But, having that circumstance where, there's more people in this planet that, seem to be observant of like some of this craziness going on. And that's kind of where it started with Anarchapulco, was like, I don't really want to leave this group. I want to do this like 24/7. I don't want this just to be like a conference that we have every year. I want to do it every day. And so, I started living here in Acapulco and then contributing to, what Anarchapulco became, was definitely something that, I played a part in. I've kind of kept my distance from Anarchapulco to some degree. And my feeling was I want to represent the grassroots. I want to represent the real people. I don't want to get too, too high on the horse or, turn it into something that, kind of loses its heart.
Sure. Yeah.
And so to some degree, that's just become an opportunity, whereas Anarchapulco has grown to serve a particular niche. I've just kind of taken that opportunity to just present the opportunity for other people to fill the rest of that niche that's really open to anybody that's creative or an innovator or has a message that people need to hear. I certainly want to kind of provide that space for them to be here. And so that's kind of what Acapulco has become in February, and to some degree a little bit before February and a little bit after February, depending on how many people here and how excited they are about their concept. But there is a community that exists here that is voluntarist in nature, and certainly that provides a resource and a kind of a sounding board for people when they have ideas or when they're going through kind of that withdrawal from kind of being in the insanity that is modern society, and like how do you actually get rid of that conditioning. It isn't something that just happens overnight. You really do have to dedicate some time and some effort to discombobulating all the garbage that's been put into people's heads. And they've just adopted and kind of subconsciously adopted without even really consciously being aware of all the mechanisms that are going on. That is our behavior.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's, man, that there's so much to unpack there. One thing I want to highlight is you talking about how feeling alienated. I feel like it's almost like weaponized against us, as individual people, to think we're crazy, even though our heart is clearly saying, hey, I just want to connect to people. I just want, to be around people who understand, that I'm sovereign and, that, that I'm allowed to do whatever, as long as I'm not hurting anybody else. That's not weird for the people out there. There's nothing weird about that. You are not crazy because you believe you have human rights. Okay. Let's clear that up. Let's just go ahead and put that out on the table, because it does feel that way. It does. I mean, there's a lot of, I can feel it, as I go through. But I think that's what's so neat too about Acapulco. And I think that speaks volumes about your dedication to, community building is going down there, being there, staying there, and then building things there, which kind of makes me want to get to the next, I guess, point, which is tell us about what you're doing now a little bit, because I'm excited to hear about RESPIRAR Acapulco.
Well, RESPIRAR Acapulco is still kind of a concept. I mean,
Cool.
you're really getting kind of the the first draft of this idea, and really we're doing it on the fly to some degree. We've done Agorapulco before, and before that we did something called the Anarchapulco experience, what we called AEX, the year before that. And there's always kind of been something on the side where we're really trying to create an experience that enhances the things that people that have come down to Anarchapulco and returned over and over again because of this particular thing, that interaction, that connection with other people, that opportunity to connect with people and potentially, connect their ideas to other people's ideas. And, this idea of unity in action, is very powerful. That's certainly something as well, but really trying to kind of create that circumstance so that when people come down, we already have in mind kind of a way to like enhance the experience so it's even more profound and and just effective in kind of really boosting people's experience in a positive way, so that they get the most out of the time that they have here. I always invite people to come and stay as long as they possibly can, because I've been here 7 years and I feel like I'm still working on my issues, and I thank God that I found Acapulco and found kind of this culture, which is so much different than, what Western culture is, and being able to like see, oh, hold on, this is insanity. Why am I doing this? And there's just so many of those things that go on. But in regard to RESPIRAR Acapulco, it's going to be a 2-day event, and it's only one of the things that that is going to be going on down here. Anarchapulco is the 14th through the 18th. It's it's going to I'm sure it's kind of going to appeal to a particular crowd and niche, because the tickets are, relatively expensive to be here in person. You're talking $1,250 for a ticket. And, they've got a particular location. That's a beautiful location. And, I'm sure they're going to have some wonderful speakers and so forth. But there's not everybody can afford a $1,250 ticket. And so I don't want people to miss out with the opportunity to experience it, especially in the circumstance that we are in, because, I think a lot of people don't realize that, some of these borders are going to be like, prison cells. And certainly this is an opportunity to kind of take this circumstance and make a comparison between like what's on the inside of the wall and what's on the outside of the wall, and which side of the wall do I want to be on. I certainly want to give people that opportunity to make those choices, and I want to make it as easy as possible for them to get here and then connect with other people, because one of the benefits of what is actually going on with the way that they're steering the world is that you can work online. And so like making a choice between working online in something that's like a sanctuary or a paradise versus something that could be like a prison cell, I certainly want to give people the freedom to make that choice. And so that's kind of where RESPIRAR Acapulco is going. But it serves a lot of things, because the local population, as far as Acapulco itself, there's a lot of small businesses and people that they're really practicing what the anarchists would love to would
Right.
love to see is
Yep.
is this idea of being free and providing value for people, and like all the things that they're doing, they don't get to see like the rest of the world. And so like for the anarchists and the voluntarists and the expats that are coming down, we can be their eyes and kind of say, hey, this is a value, this is an asset over here, so like kind of creating that creating the connection between like how the outside community connects to the inside community that is here in Acapulco, as well as like the locals that have been here for centuries and have perpetuated a culture that is amazing in my opinion, that we can learn from as well, is something that I want to do. So RESPIRAR Acapulco is really about breathing life into Acapulco and then breathing life from Acapulco, so that it's a two-way street. But then it is going to be a conference, and we're going to do stuff similar to what Anarchapulco has done, and certainly similar to some of the earlier Anarchapulcos like 2015 and 2016. And it was kind of still new, and there was, like everybody was just throwing ideas out at the wall. And we have done some of that stuff. So we're going to offer things for people that are entrepreneurs. We're going to, really kind of try and enhance the idea of like seeing the beautiful things in other people, and like encouraging people to like kind of like show others like what is beautiful inside them. And that happens in so many ways, and to me, I think it's just we have the opportunity, and with the like the level of stress and risk and all that kind of stuff that's out there in the world, and how serious the implications are, I do feel like this is just the perfect moment to like put out a message that says, everybody's got some beautiful things inside them, and we're just here to like give them an opportunity to explore that.
Man, that's awesome. I would love to come down there too. I've traveled the third world a bit, and just a lush, beautiful jungle, like that's a literal abundance around you in naturally. So if people out there are, if you're thinking of a border jump, it might be it might be now's the time to start thinking about that. And February is a huge month too, so you're going to be doing that the week sort of before Anarchapulco, and it's more like
so the dates of the actual event are the 12th and the 13th of February. That's what we're currently shooting for, but I'm pretty solid on those dates.
That's cool.
But we should be solidifying that here shortly.
That's
we do have some popular figures that are kind of going to lead off the presentations and stuff like that. But we're not so much concerned about like getting the big name people. We're more concerned with like having the topics that really interest people, and having a discussion around those with the most knowledgeable people.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that sounds amazing. It definitely sounds, organic and like a lot of fun. And I like, putting myself when I can in the situation, especially with a group, and to see kind of how that energy develops itself. One of the books we talked about was Tribal Leadership not too long ago. And I just started listening to that again. And it's interesting to see how, the energy of a group moves, breathes, changes. And, this is something that in our sort of circle, we've been talking about these principles for, a long time. I mean, as long as I've been around libertarianism or whatever you want to call it, or sovereignty. I don't know. I mean, I guess I don't want to get too like into terminology, but just the fact that we own ourselves,
Yes.
is something that's really basic, really simple. Doesn't take a lot of time or reading to understand this idea. And once we start to apply it and forge communities based on this idea, I think things are going to start really changing. So I think it's really exciting what you're doing down there.
Yeah, well, you mentioned sovereignty, and that's kind of one of the things that I've experienced being here in Acapulco. I had the circumstance quite a few years ago now, but one of the first years that I was in Acapulco, we had some police kind of accost us, and one of the guys that was in the taxi we were in, they threw him in the cop car, and we had to kind of go through some negotiations to get him out. And I have or at the time I had a very well connected friend, here in town, and I said, hey man, this and he goes, oh man, I ain't gonna let that stand. We're gonna get the bottom of this. And so I ended up meeting with the police chief at the time for Acapulco, and his kind of his wisdom was, don't listen to the cops. I can't control them. Like there are so many influences and things going on behind the scene that like even the police chief does not have control of the police. And that's really like, that really is like, to some degree people think that's the Wild West, but the reality is that's freedom. Like people have responsibility for themselves here. And so ultimately you represent yourself here, and you have that kind of freedom here.
Mm-hmm.
But it does come with responsibility. And so that's why community is necessary, because you have to know people, to basically speak for you in certain circumstances. And but that gives you a great deal of like there's tasks that like handle risks. So like when risks come up, you've got to know people that can handle those kind of risks and stuff like that. And through that relationship and through trust, you end up with a circumstance where, hey, the guys that know how to handle those particular kinds of risks are handling those kind of risks. And, that's part of the model, that gets things taken care of.
Yep.
And so,
it's not just some random person who scribbled something down 1,000 miles off. Like this is, this, and that's what's interesting about it, thinking about it in that community, thing. That's why if the worst thing you could do to someone is to exile them from the group, all, if we go back in time 100 years, which really isn't that far, you know what I mean? But that was the worst thing. So it was based on real trust, I guess. I just wanted to add that. Not just because, oh, well, I'm just doing my job, or so-and-so told me to, and this is the virtuous thing to do because someone wrote it down on paper who has more money than me.
Yeah. Just like what you pointed out, 150 years ago, the average person never moved more than 10 miles from their birthplace, so like the people that were around them, those were lifetime relationships. It wasn't like they, like they didn't know their neighbor. They not only knew their neighbor, they knew their grandparents, they knew their siblings, they knew everything about them. And like kind of creating or like, witnessing a culture that has those kind of connections, and like comparing it to like what Westerners experience, it's like freaking night and day, And so like reintegrating into that kind of a community and culture, which is like what Acapulco has, it is, it's eye-opening.
I mean, just my experience traveling, which I didn't get to do all that much. I was an outward bound instructor in Costa Rica for, I think, like 6 or 7 months before I left and went to Peru for a while. But like I got to really experience, villages and like places where you would have to hike in, or like take a horse or a motorcycle because there's so much rain, and, it was a true rainforest. But like the dynamic, so much different, and in incorporating in that society, it's insane. I remember getting back, and this was in 2008. So really smartphones weren't even a thing yet. My dad had a BlackBerry, but even then I got off the plane. I'd been, in Peru for months and Costa Rica for months. We go out to dinner at fucking Ruby Tuesdays or whatever, you know what I'm saying? And then, and my dad's on his phone, and I just like, man, this is not like, I went all this way, and I felt like I had, gleaned this important lesson about, family and interaction and community and all these kind of things. And I did. And I realized how disconnected we were, right? Nothing wrong with any of these people. We're all just trying to survive and do our best. But I could see the split then, as far as, this kind of like shift of sort of attaining to this digital standard versus the real one. And I think we're going to see that discrepancy more and more and more, obviously, with Meta and all of that. But I think it's really an important thing. And I think it's a valuable thing to connect with people in real time. I love that you're fostering that. And I love that you've, been there in Acapulco for this time, like kind of holding up. Have you seen a lot more people coming in recent times? What is it like as far as people coming in?
We're definitely seeing a lot of Australians
Okay.
showing up here. The Australians definitely seem to be coming at this point. So that's like, there's several people a week that are popping up that are basically escaping from Australia. There's a lot of Canadians here that, we've got, we're getting people from all over the place. I'm not exactly sure, what to expect for this year, because, it's like full crackdown now. They've got this cycle where they're just, cranking out this, this kind of circular fucking excuse that is, oh, we're going to let you free. Oh, no, here's a new variant. Oh, we're going to have to lock down, and it's just like people's expectations are being diminished and diminished and diminished. And this is the way that this is the psychological operations that I certainly witnessed in the military, and is definitely been experimented with in the prison systems. And so that they know what they're doing. And and then with the Facebook and the social media and the metadata that they can collect on like what people react to and how they're reacting to it and how fast they're moving, all that kind of stuff. I mean, this system is designed for them, and we got to keep that in mind, because we're really operating on their terrain when we're online. And that's
it's like a funnel.
It's a hazardous place.
We got to use the online space as a funnel to maybe like make more real connections and build that real community. I mean, there's a lot of people that I have connected with and I haven't gotten to meet physically in real life. And there might even be a caveat or two going along with just meeting random people on the internet, Craigslist. But I mean, over time, I've developed some insanely intimate and deep friendships with people. And, with the community that we both met in, there's a lot of amazing people. I got to meet a lot of those people in person too, in Autonomy. And are you working also with Autonomy? You want to talk a little bit about that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's, this is another project that I absolutely love. And I will work till I'm, dead on this project, because it's so freaking important to me. But it is, it's coming together. I mean, we're, what is it, 3 years in at this point? It's still really a startup. But it's, it is looking so promising. And, just like the fact that we connected, and, I've got a multitude of, knowledge that I've been able to, have access to that I didn't have access to before, as well as expertise in the matter, so like, this is also something that, RESPIRAR ACAPULCO to some degree can showcase. I mean, I've got a number of projects that are coming from Autonomy students and graduates that I definitely want to promote, because I think they're just absolutely, fabulous in regard to, serving people well, and giving them a much higher quality of life. But that's kind of my forte. I'm a project manager at heart, and I did that well, for the corporate world, up until I found out that, man, I'm not helping the right people, and it took me a while to I just had to quit, because I just was so frustrated. I mean, I felt like I was doing an exceptional job for the wrong people, and when that happened, I just, I had to stop for a while. But now, finding Acapulco, finding Autonomy, finding these high quality people that have, valuable offers that, that need to be developed into things. And, that's another thing, is that, like, the system that we live under is a fiat system, and much of the fiat system the value has been hidden, like the things that we think is worth money has been corrupted, and to some degree you can really see that because like there's people out there that are getting paid to do harm, to blow stuff up, to destroy things. That's not really very valuable in a sane world. But the fact that that's being paid for, and going into eliminating people and stuff like that, and human potential is certainly the absolute wrong direction. But that's just a demonstration of how the fiat system corrupts value, and there's got to be people that just say, hold on a minute, this is valuable, this is like double quality of life. What the hell are we doing, like, putting that off to the side? These things are important, and these people are important. I mean, I think there again is another thing, like how do we go about like raising people up? That's something that we're kind of coming out of a slave system, and we're trying to figure out, like, okay, what do we do? Like, how do free people act? What are free people's responsibilities? I've been a slave my whole life. I have no idea of what really matters, and where I can go that's safe and all that kind of good stuff. So there's there's a lot there, but the beautiful thing is, like, like the idea of the tribe, it's like many hands make light work, and
Yes.
if we have a trusting kind of compassionate community of people, then amazing things can happen overnight.
Yeah, I love that you said that you realized you were working for the wrong people. That's something I can very, very well relate with, with my background being in creating Hollywood stuff. But I did learn a lot of skills. It's like after one thing happened or this thing happened here or there, I was like, well, thanks for teaching me how to produce. Peace out. But we also, one thing I want to glean from that is that also that you kind of mentioned on is that we have the opportunity to create a new standard. As overwhelming as that is, and scary and frightening, it's also the greatest gift, to be able to really truly create our own standard for ourselves, asking ourselves, because like you can't stay in this cognitive dissonant thing for long where you're working for the wrong people, but you feel like, there's something that you should be doing or something, another better way. And I believe that there are plenty of ways, plenty of roles that you can take up and make a positive change by doing that. I think that it also comes from deciding consciously to create that new standard and what that is. And I think that's what's so cool about your work. And so maybe we could talk a little bit about what that process is like, and maybe what some of the stumbling blocks can be when we start to like do that work.
Well, are you familiar with the Dunning-Kruger effect of, like, people have like a high degree of confidence even though they have a low competence, and there's this like false kind of sense of understanding what is actually important, and to some degree, like that high level of confidence at a low level of competence is what they call Mount Stupid. But then as you kind of get off that mountain and kind of go down the rabbit holes, you go down the kind of the level of confidence. As you kind of learn more about what's actually going on, you get into something that is described as the valley of despair. And I'm sure a lot of us that have been in in this circumstance, we've gone down these rabbit holes and we're like, does anybody else see this shit? I can't believe this, and then it's like nobody listens, but that's kind of like where that fiat money keeps everybody, like, keep climbing that mountain of stupidity. But the reality is we need to go over to the other side, which is like this plateau of wisdom. And it really is, like, intelligence in my mind is really kind of a cross section of two things, and that is kind of understanding that we can do things that are beneficial or harmful to ourselves, or we can do things that are beneficial and harmful to others, or we can do both or neither, and really the heart of stupidity is, when you're harming yourself and harming other people at the same time, through your behavior. And unfortunately, a lot of our behavior is kind of beyond our control, and it's been conditioned by, just repetition. And so we've got to kind of consciously like look through all the things that we are doing as far as our behavior, and start restoring, the things that, oh shit, man, I didn't realize that when I buy, this new electronics device, I'm supporting slavery on the other side of the planet. What are my other options, like kind of creating that circumstance where we're impacting the world, and that's intelligence, is doing the things that are beneficial for ourselves as well as beneficial for other people. That's really kind of a key factor in what I explain, in regard to like what I do with like ethical emergence, is really about, people kind of understanding like what are the traps, what are the things that we've fallen into, and then how do we go about unwinding that stuff and finding out, like, number one, who we are, and what is really special about us. But then how do we communicate with other people? How do we meaningfully communicate with other people? How do we, like, explain and break down things so that people can understand the truth and we can understand the truth, and then how do we work together, and honestly, I don't even really like the word work. I'm a kind of a devotee to Bob Black and the idea that of like what he calls Ludic conviviality, this idea of kind of playful friendliness, is where we can design our own playground and then invite our friends. And it's, it doesn't have to be work at all. It can just be, enjoying your life and making things happen that are good for everybody, including ourselves.
I love that. Yeah, what's good for the goose is good for the gander, type of thing. But I love that your breakdown of that, because it's absolutely true. We can affect ourselves positively and the world negatively. We can affect ourselves positively and the world positively, or negatively, or no difference at all, right? And that's great, because there are really all the options there. And I remember the term ludic conviviality as well. That's going to somehow be shoehorned into the title of this episode, because it's such an awesome word that I definitely didn't know and definitely had to look up. But I'm with you there, man. I feel like we should be playing. This should be fun,
Exactly.
This should be an experience that that really lights us up, and we can really enjoy the process of, instead of having to work. Like, I was just actually doing some journaling this morning. It's like I have this feeling of this like sort of frenetic energy of all these things that I have to do, and I can do those things in that energy, or I can dissociate myself from that energy and still do those things, but in a calm way. Like, I can enjoy uploading stuff. Uploading stuff
Yeah.
is pretty mindless, but it's something that if I'm not in a hurry, and then if I do get in a hurry like that and I get kind of succumb to that energy, I wind up messing something up or doing something, funky, or uploading it wrong, or it doesn't, something inevitably, it seems like, kind of makes the process even more difficult in that
Yeah.
mood. So
Well,
oh, go ahead.
well, I was just gonna mention, in regard to like process and stuff like that, that's one of the ways that you can examine like what is good, like what do you like to do and what don't you like to do, and then how to go about like communicating that to other people so that you can get help on those things, because if I mean, I know we've all experienced this where it's like, during the day, there's things that we have to do that we dread doing. And so it takes, it's just like, ah, God, I don't want to do it. And sometimes that can go on for weeks, where you're just, I don't want to deal with this thing. It's just such a painful experience. But being able to just identify that and then communicate that to other people can make a world of difference, because imagine if that thing, you just snap your fingers and someone else takes care of it, and not only takes care of it but takes care of it well. that's kind of the things that we can do, and we can do for each other, because we're not all the same. We're all uniquely different. We're all like snowflakes. And the thing that you hate to do is probably the thing that someone else just absolutely loves to do. And that's kind of the magic that we can create. And I think that's kind of the magic that we're experiencing in autonomy, is as it becomes clearer that that's how things can be, things just are starting to magically happen.
Yeah, they start to work that way. They work that way. And then you start to build, like building a belief. You start to build faith in that process. The process becomes easier. And then it,
Yeah.
yeah, ultimately becomes simpler and simpler to implement, which is great. I think that's awesome. I'm super excited, man. Like when I saw you on the call the other day and I was like, man, Mike looks great. I hadn't talked to him in ages. And you just seemed really excited about all the things that you're working on now. And it inspired me. So I wanted to say thank you for that. And then I was like, well, shit, I should have reached out to him months ago to come do a podcast. And so I appreciate you taking the time to come and chat today. And if there's anything you want to kind of tell people about, you got the Ethical Emergence course, RESPIRAR ACAPULCO, the own podcast. I'll be sure to put links for everything in the show notes, leadership, ethics, and organization. And yeah, if there's anything else you kind of want to talk about, or sort of parting thought.
Well, I mean, you brought up I brought up a word, Ludic conviviality. That's kind of an unusual one. There's another one that I talk a lot about. It's called aberrant behavior, and it's the communicative function of aberrant behavior. And again, it's a credit to someone that I met in autonomy that totally blew my mind with this idea. But I think it's so important because people want to be loved. Everybody wants to be loved, and unfortunately we're doing a really bad job of that. And so then the next level is people want to be recognized for doing something, doing something well, hopefully. But if they can't get that, which we're not doing a very good job on that one either, they'd like attention. And if they can't get attention doing good things, they'll get attention doing bad things. And this is kind of one of the things about human nature that I don't think most people are aware of, or at least they're not really conscious of. It's like, well, how does that actually work and stuff? But the reality is this idea of the cognitive function of aberrant behavior is it's a subconscious level. It's your subconscious trying to communicate with the rest of the world that there's something wrong that needs to be fixed. And unfortunately, because we don't have the tribe and the family, especially in the Western world, to recognize this, cry for help, we end up with people doing bad things and then it just accelerates, where bad, people that are victimized become victimizers. And then it just repeats over and over and over again. And, more and more of the population becomes traumatized and, walking around as walking wounded. And everybody is oblivious to it because that trauma also creates kind of a blindness. And then of course the system is trying to isolate people so that they don't know how to communicate, so they think they're crazy or weird because they have these ideas, and so then they don't express themselves. And I mean, that's kind of one of the things when it comes to stage fright and people being afraid of public speaking. That's a conditioned fear, and the fact that it's so prevalent really kind of shows it that this is part of the system. This is how they're controlling people. And this is kind of some of the things that we've got to learn to understand and then just do something different. And I feel like there again is a choice where we can offer people a choice and say, it doesn't have to be that way. This isn't your nature. People are angry, people are triggered, and to some degree they just say, well, that's your nature. Yeah, well, that's your nature if you've been domesticated into a prison cell. But in a free world, you have a whole different nature that's so much more beautiful and better and productive and abundant. It's crazy. And to me, that's probably the hardest thing I got to do is like see people's potential and then see how, far short they're falling from even recognizing how much potential they have, and then, you can, you can repeat it to them. You can say, hey man, you're a great person. You got all this potential, you can do it. But the fact of the matter is you'd have to say it like 50,000 times a day for the next 10 years to
Right.
kind of equate to the amount of abuse and bullshit and garbage that they've, had thrown at them that says the opposite.
Right. Right. Yeah. Well, love on your people, folks. It's that holiday time. And I think that's a really great observation. Like most of the things that I've studied in self-help and stuff, it mostly comes down to self-worth. And so I love the way that the cognitive function of aberrant behavior is formatted, because, if we're loved, then we feel like we have everything we need, and everything is, we can really grow from that place, from gratitude and appreciation and resources, all those things. But if we don't have that, then we do just want that self-worth to be recognized, and hopefully for something that we did well, obviously, or something that we have contributed, that we matter, that we have a reason for being a part of this society and being alive and existing. And then ultimately that attention. And that makes me think of kids, right? Like kids, they act out when they don't get attention, and that's how they get that attention, because perhaps, there's some other development that needs to happen within their relationships or things like that. But, it makes sense too. Obviously they're kids, they're just learning, but it makes sense from that perspective. I can even do that, right? Like I could have a faux moment, full on freak out just because I need attention. I'm overwhelmed, help, or whatever it is. I matter. Like even to my friends and the people around me, where I just had like blow a gasket because like I don't feel supported and it's probably not even true, but it's just the experience that I'm having in that moment. So I think that's a really, really good note to end on, just with an outpouring of love and appreciation. And I really appreciate you. And I just want to say thank you for doing everything that you're doing, Mike. It's awesome.
No, it's my pleasure, Owen, and thank you so much for taking the time. And anything that I can do for you, Owen, and certainly the welcome mat is out as far as Acapulco or coming down, or like if you've got any interest in presenting or doing a show down here, I'm sure people would be excited, very excited to see what I know you can bring, so.
Well, I appreciate that tremendously. And yeah, we'll definitely be in touch. Folks, be sure to check out Mike's podcast. I will put all his links in the description below. Autonomy link is there too, if you guys want to check that out. As well as, the reading club that I'm hosting, that'll be in there as well. So links down there. And yeah, we will continue to be in touch. Much love and many blessings, everybody. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.